They say turning 18 is supposed to feel like freedom, like the door to your future finally creaks open. Mine slammed shut. And the ones who locked it? My own parents. Just 2 days before my birthday, I was counting down the hours to the big party they'd planned for me. Balloons, music, friends, finally a day that was about me. I was so excited until everything was canceled. Not because of a storm, not because of sickness, but because my older sister threw a tantrum over a trip she couldn't take. She was supposed to fly out to New York with her friends. A fun getaway she wouldn't stop talking about for weeks. But flights got grounded because of bad weather. And just like that, her smile disappeared. And when her mood vanished, so did my birthday. She demanded my party be canceled. If I can't have fun, she said, then neither should she. And my parents? They didn't even hesitate. Invitations? Retracted. Decorations? Taken down. Me? Left in the dark, literally sitting in the living room in my new dress, waiting for guests who would never arrive. I found out hours later. When the clock hit 7 and the doorbell didn't ring once, I asked. My parents just casually said they had canceled everything, for my sister's sake. They even lied to my guests, told them I was sick, that I had a migraine, that no one should text or call me because I needed rest. But I wasn't sick. I was furious. I exploded. For the first time in my life, I let it all out. The years of being the background child, the one told to understand, while my sister got everything. I screamed. I sobbed. And still, all they cared about was waking her up from her nap. When she finally came downstairs, she acted like the victim. She actually had the nerve to say I was being heartless for celebrating while she was grieving her canceled trip. A vacation. As if my birthday didn't matter at all. As if I was selfish for wanting a single day that was mine. I snapped. We fought. It got physical. Hair pulled. Voices raised. And just when it couldn't get any worse, the doorbell rang. It was my grandfather. And everything changed. My grandfather wasn't supposed to come that night. He was recovering from a small surgery and promised to call me the next day instead. But something didn't sit right with him when my mom told him the party was off because I was sick. He knew me better than anyone. He saw through it instantly. So when he walked through that door and found me red-eyed, my dress wrinkled, the living room dark and empty, he said nothing. Just stared at me for a long, heartbreaking second. Then he turned to my parents. What the hell happened here? Silence. My sister tried to open her mouth, but he raised his hand. No, I want to hear it from them. They fumbled over excuses. That I was overreacting. That I had a bad attitude. That they were only trying to be fair. Fair, he repeated, his voice rising like thunder. You cancel your daughter's 18th birthday party because your other daughter couldn't fly to New York? What kind of nonsense is that? My mom tried to soften the moment with a smile, saying, You know how emotional Mia gets. Mia? My sister. My grandfather looked at her, then at me. Then he said something I'll never forget. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Get your coat. I blinked. What? We're leaving, he said. And we did. We got into his car, just the two of us, and he drove us straight to his house. No questions. No pity. Just presents. When we arrived, he handed me his credit card. Order what you want, he said. Food. Cake. Invite whoever you like. Your party starts now. That night, my real birthday happened, in the quiet, warm space of someone who actually saw me. And guess what? Almost everyone showed up. Friends who thought I'd vanished came, confused but happy to celebrate. My cousin brought balloons. My best friend brought music. And I danced until midnight. Mia texted me once that night. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. But I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped letting her ruin me. The next morning, the fallout began. My parents were livid. Not because they realized they were wrong, but because I had the audacity to make the night mine again. They called my phone nonstop, left voicemails dripping in guilt. My mother cried about how embarrassed she was. My father demanded I apologize to Mia. For what? For existing? I didn't answer. I stayed with my grandfather for the rest of the week. Every morning, he made me breakfast. Every night, we talked about college, about life, about how family should feel like shelter, not a battleground. It was the first time I felt like someone saw me not as a burden, not as a backup, but as a person. Word spread fast in the family. Some relatives reached out to say they were shocked. Others admitted they weren't surprised. They'd seen how my sister always came first, how I was constantly put second. But the best message came from my aunt. She sent a photo from my party at Grandpa's house, me blowing out candles, laughing, alive. She wrote, "This is who you are. Don't let anyone dim it again." Mia? She doubled down. She started a campaign of guilt, posting cryptic things online. "Some people can't handle when the spotlight's not on them," she wrote. Oh, the irony. My parents backed her. Always. They said I was tearing the family apart by not coming home. But I didn't want to go back to a house where love was conditional, where birthdays were bargaining chips and attention had to be stolen. So I stayed gone. I moved in with my grandfather permanently a month later. He helped me apply for scholarships, helped me buy books, helped me believe in myself again. The day I moved out officially, my parents didn't even show up to say goodbye. That hurt. Of course it did. But it also healed something deeper. Because I realized I was never the problem. I was just inconvenient to their narrative. 2 years passed. I graduated early, got accepted to a great university out of state. And every step forward I took felt like peeling off another layer of the shame they wrapped around me. For my 20th birthday, I threw a party at my own apartment. Nothing big, just a few friends, some lights, pizza, and laughter that came from the gut. Real. Free. I didn't invite my family. But they came anyway. I opened the door, and there they were, my mother, my father, and Mia, holding a gift bag like nothing had ever happened. Awkward doesn't even begin to describe it. My guests fell silent. The room tensed. My mother smiled too wide. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Can we come in?" And for a second, I almost said yes. Almost fell back into that trap of being the peacemaker, the fixer, the girl who let herself be pushed aside for the sake of keeping things calm. But then I looked at Mia. She didn't look sorry. She looked smug, like she expected to be forgiven without ever asking for it. So I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and said, "Why are you really here?" They all started talking at once. They missed me. They wanted to reconnect. They thought maybe enough time had passed. But when I asked them one simple question, "Do you even remember why I left?" Silence. They couldn't answer. Or wouldn't. That told me everything. So I told them the truth. I didn't leave because of a birthday. I left because you taught me I didn't matter. And now that I'm thriving without you, you want back in. But you don't get to walk into my life now like nothing happened. My father's face hardened. My mother started to tear up. Mia just rolled her eyes. And I? I smiled. Goodbye. And I closed the door. Not just on them, but on the version of me who ever believed they'd open it for the right reasons. Today, I'm 22. I have my own job, my own home, my own friends who never make me beg to be seen. My grandfather passed away last spring. Peacefully. At home. Holding my hand. He left me everything. Not just his house, not just his old records, or that perfect garden he kept, but his belief in me. His quiet, steady love that never wavered. The kind that taught me what real family looks like. At his funeral, my parents sat 2 rows behind me. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Because in the end, the man they ignored became the reason I survived. I visit his grave every Sunday. I bring him sunflowers and stories. I tell him about work, about the new cat I adopted, about how I finally made peace with the fact that some people will never apologize and that I don't need them to anymore. Because I built a life they never imagined for me, one without their permission, one without begging for scraps of affection. I am not the forgotten child. I am the one who walked away and never looked back. And every birthday now, I celebrate it not just for me, but for every kid who was made to feel like they didn't deserve one. Because we do. We always did. You might be wondering if it was always like this. It was. Growing up, I learned early that love in our house came with conditions. Mia was always the golden girl, talented, beautiful, dramatic in a way that kept all eyes on her. When she cried, everything stopped. When she smiled, the sun rose again. And me? I was the quiet one. The easy one. The one who learned not to ask for seconds unless they were offered. My parents called it being mature for my age. But what it really meant was learning to disappear. There were birthdays where she got ponies and big backyard tents, while I got books and a cupcake with a single candle. Report cards where we both got A's, but only hers were pinned to the fridge. Moments where I'd perform at school and hear, "Oh, we can't come, Mia has rehearsal." I used to think it was normal. I used to think, maybe if I just try harder, they'll see me too. But love shouldn't be something you earn like a prize in a game. My grandfather was the only one who noticed. When I was 10, he picked me up after a school play no one else came to. I sat in the passenger seat, still wearing my costume, clutching a handmade certificate. I didn't say anything, but he looked at me and said, "You were amazing." I shrugged. "It was nothing." "No," he said. "It was everything." That sentence carried me for years. He never missed a show after that. Every science fair, every art contest, every library reading, he was there. He saw me, even when my parents didn't, especially when they didn't. When I turned 16, I asked for something small, a day trip to the mountains. Just me, my parents, and my sister. A break from the city, some quiet time, a picnic, maybe some pictures. They said no. Not because they were busy, not because they couldn't afford it, but because Mia had already made plans with her boyfriend, and it would be too much effort to reschedule. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just nodded and went in my room. But Grandpa found out. The next weekend, he rented a car, packed sandwiches, picked me up before sunrise. We drove for 3 hours, stopped by a lake, and just sat there. "You don't have to be quiet all the time, you know," he said. "I don't want to cause problems," I replied. He looked at me with those kind eyes and said, "Sometimes causing problems is the only way to be heard. But even when you whisper, I'll always be listening." That day, I saw snow for the first time in years. We didn't say much, but the silence felt like love, not absence. I still have the photo he took of me that day, sitting on a rock, wrapped in his old flannel, the lake behind me and the sky starting to turn gold. It's framed on my nightstand now, right beside a photo of us at my real birthday party, the one he gave me when no one else bothered to. College was like being reborn. No one knew me as the second best daughter. No one measured my worth in comparison to someone louder. I got to introduce myself without baggage, just me, raw and unfiltered. I made friends who liked me for my thoughts, not my silence. I remember one late night in the dorm common room. We were talking about families, childhoods, the kind of things you only say when the world outside is dark and safe. One of my friends asked, "What's the best thing your parents ever did for you?" And I froze, because I couldn't think of anything. That night, I called Grandpa, told him I missed him, told him I was scared that maybe I'd never really belong anywhere. "You belong to yourself," he said. And that's more than most people ever find. That sentence stayed with me. Every time I got nervous before a test, every time I felt like an imposter, every time someone called their mom and I felt that hole widen, I repeated his words like armor. "You belong to yourself." And I did. Piece by piece, I reclaimed myself. I joined clubs. I led study groups. I even started writing stories about girls who didn't get picked, who walked away, who found something better beyond the noise. And every semester, when I came home for break, I didn't go to my parents' house. I went to Grandpa's, where the door was always unlocked. The tea was always warm, and I was always enough. When Grandpa passed away, I expected grief. What I didn't expect was the chaos that followed. He left a clear will. Everything, the house, his savings, his journals, even the old car, to me. Not out of spite, not to hurt anyone, but because he knew I had nowhere else. My parents were furious. They contested the will, said I manipulated him, said he wasn't in his right mind, said Mia deserved more. After all, she was the oldest. But the will stood. And with every court date, with every lie they spewed, I saw just how little they cared about love and just how much they worshipped control. I never fought for the money. I didn't need the house. I fought because Grandpa chose me, because his last act of love was giving me a place to land, and I wasn't going to let them take it out of greed. After the ruling, they tried one last trick. A letter, written in my mother's handwriting, talking about forgiveness, about how family sticks together, and how Mia really misses you. I didn't even open it. I burned it in the fireplace Grandpa built with his own hands. And as the paper curled into ash, I whispered, "I miss you too, Grandpa. And I won't let them rewrite your story." Because his story was mine now, and I would guard it with everything I had. Years passed. I became a youth counselor. Strange, isn't it? The girl who was always overlooked now helps others feel seen. One day, a girl came into my office. Quiet, withdrawn, her hair in her face, her eyes tired. I recognized that look. She was me. Not literally, but in spirit. We talked for hours. About sisters who scream. About parents who only hear one voice. About birthdays ruined and dreams put on shelves. At the end, she looked at me and asked, "Do you think I'll ever be okay?" And I smiled. "Not only will you be okay," I said, "you'll be extraordinary. Because the fact that you're still here, that's power." She cried. I cried. And in that moment, I understood what Grandpa had been doing all those years. He wasn't just saving me. He was showing me how to save myself, so I could help others, too. Now, every year on my birthday, I write him a letter. I tell him what I've done, who I've helped, how I've grown, and I end each letter the same way. You saw me. I see others now. Thank you for teaching me how to stay soft in a hard world. I don't need parties anymore, but I celebrate every single day for the girl I was and the woman I chose to become. Last year, I ran into Mia at the grocery store. It had been nearly 6 years since we'd spoken. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner, but that same look, like the world owed her something, still clung to her posture. She looked shocked. You're still around? She said. I laughed. I'm thriving. She didn't like that. We stood by the fruit aisle like strangers who shared a broken house. I heard about Grandpa, she said, almost soft. He loved you too, I replied. He just couldn't save everyone. She scoffed. He spoiled you. No, I said. He saw me. And that must have felt like stealing to someone who always had the spotlight. She didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. Before we parted ways, she said, I thought you'd come back eventually. I did, I smiled. But not to you. And I walked away. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. But peace. Because sometimes, winning isn't proving them wrong. It's not needing to anymore. Today, I'm standing on the porch of Grandpa's old house, the one he left me, the one I've rebuilt piece by piece. The fence is painted white now. The garden's bigger. The tree out front has a swing again, not for me, but for the neighborhood kids who drop by after school. Inside, there's a bookshelf lined with stories I've helped others write. Journals, essays, poems, some full of grief, some bursting with hope, all of them real. There's a photo frame above the mantel. It holds a snapshot of the night I turned 18, not the ruined party, but the one Grandpa made happen. In it, I'm laughing. I look at it sometimes to remind myself what resilience looks like. Because survival isn't just about running away. It's about choosing joy after being denied it. It's about planting your own candles in the cake and saying, this is mine. I'm worth celebrating. And to the little girl still inside me, the one who waited in her dress, hoping someone would show up, I say, I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again. One of my earliest memories is from when I was 6. It was Mia's birthday. She was turning 10 and had a huge party, ponies, clowns, even a magician. I remember helping hang up balloons, carefully writing her name on a banner with glitter letters. When I asked if I could invite my best friend over for cake, my mother said, it's not your day. Don't make this about you. So I didn't. I stood by the window in my itchy dress, watching other kids play with goodie bags while I handed out drinks and refilled snack bowls like I was staff, not family. That night, Grandpa came to tuck me in. He noticed the tears I tried to hide. I asked him, how come Mia gets everything? He didn't lie. He didn't make excuses. He just said, sometimes people confuse loudness with importance. But trust me, the quiet ones build deeper roots. I didn't understand it back then. But now? Now I do. Now I know that quiet doesn't mean small. That kindness isn't weakness. And that love, real love, doesn't need an audience. Grandpa didn't just tell me I mattered. He lived it. And every person I help now, that's his legacy too. So yeah, they canceled my 18th birthday. But they couldn't cancel my story. I reclaimed it. I rewrote it. And I made sure it ended with light. A letter I never sent, but once wrote 100 times in my head. Dear Mom and Dad, I spent years trying to be the daughter you wanted, quiet, helpful, out of the way. I thought if I stayed small enough, you'd eventually notice me. I thought love came with conditions, and I spent every ounce of my childhood trying to meet them. But all I ever got were crumbs. So here's what I wish you knew. You didn't break me. You tried. With every dismissal, every time you called me too sensitive, every time you handed Mia the world and told me to clap for her, you chipped away at my voice. But you never stole it. Because someone else saw me. And now I see me. You don't get credit for the woman I became. Grandpa does. And I do. And even though I've forgiven you, I will never forget what it took to survive under your roof. You had a chance to raise 2 daughters. You chose one. The other raised herself. And she's doing just fine. Me. Sometimes people ask me if I regret walking away from my family. If I ever feel lonely on the holidays. If I ever wonder, what if things had gone differently? The answer? Of course I wonder. I wonder what it would have been like to grow up in a house where birthdays weren't conditional, where apologies were real, where every child was seen. I wonder what it would have felt like to be hugged without being compared. But regret? No. Because every day since I left, I've learned something beautiful. that you can build your own version of family. One made of people who show up not out of obligation, but because they choose to. Friends who remember your favorite cake flavor. Mentors who remind you that your story matters. Coworkers who ask how you're really doing and wait for the answer. I found that, and I've become that for others. So no, I don't regret leaving the house where love had terms and conditions. I celebrate the day I walked out, because it was the day I walked into myself. And to anyone out there sitting in the shadows, wondering if they'll ever be more than the overlooked child, you will. You already are. And one day, you'll write your story too. And it will begin not with the moment they ignored you, but with the moment you stopped needing them to.